Now, stay tuned for Little Bear. Next on Nick Jr.
But who is Face? The guy who voiced Face also voiced Roger Klotz from Funny? From Doug. Thinking about it, yeah, I should have heard that in his voice. When I happen to see Face, usually in nostalgia clips on TikTok, it strikes a chord in my heart. To me, Face was just that. The face of Nick Jr. Seeing him on TV meant my favorite shows, long summer days, afternoon Pop-Tarts and apple slices, and probably gallons of Kool-Aid. Blue's Clues, Maggie and the Ferocious Beast, Eureka's Castle, Gullah Gullah Island, Little Bear, the shows that raised me. Realistically, I watched Blue's Clues until I was way too old to be watching Blue's Clues. The same thing with Teletubbies. That show was on when I was way older than a toddler. But I was nostalgic from a young age.
I was nostalgic from a very early age.
Cool.
These shows weren't incredibly gender specific. Honestly, I don't think most shows for younger kids back then were gender specific. I have no idea about them now, but it seems like shows that I'm nostalgic for were made for kids. They weren't made for boys and girls. They were made for kids. Gender neutral. As I got older, and gender was inevitably forced upon me, with girl-specific toys, girl clothes, girl shows, I was always more interested in the boy stuff, but I didn't mind the girl stuff. Same as now. My favorite aesthetic is Easter pastels. Stuffed animals are my favorite possessions. I like soft things. I'm a femboy through and through, no matter how much I want to deny it. So that leads me to wonder, how would my childhood have been different if I were raised as a boy? More specifically, how does childhood nostalgia change based on when the individual came out as trans? I came out as an adult, so naturally a lot of my nostalgia things are girly, because that's what I was around. That's what I was given. Tea sets, sky dancers, those weird cupcake dolls. But I remember being very curious about boy things. The gross out toys, Mighty Max instead of Polly Pocket, the fingerboard toys. But unfortunately my childhood didn't involve those, so they're not really nostalgic to me. I asked in some trans groups, and the answers are surprisingly all over the place. Although I guess it shouldn't have been a surprise. Sonder and all that. Everyone is living their own life with their own things going on. Everyone grew up differently, in different families, in different places. Everyone wasn't a kid in the Midwest with pretty lenient parents able to lightly explore their gender without throwing up red flags to their family. That was my childhood, if you didn't gather. One reply I got was actually really poetic. I remember wanting to grow up to be a man, dreaming of being a surgeon or a teacher or an artist, but always a man. I remember my first kiss with a girl and realizing that, nah, I'd rather kiss boys. And I didn't quite know what to do with that, because I didn't feel like a girl at all, but couldn't wrap my 9-year-old mind around being a girl who wanted to be a boy and who wanted to kiss boys. I can absolutely understand that. Some of the people around me were confused about why I wanted to transition in the first place, because I liked guys, so I should just want to stay a girl. It's almost like gender identity and sexual preference are two different things. Imagine that. Some trans guys still refer to their younger self as she, and I tend to do that too. I know I wanted to be a boy, but since everything was girl back then, that's what I think of myself as back then. The other day my daughter asked about my dad, who died when she was around 4, so she doesn't really remember him very well. And I caught myself saying that I am her papaw's daughter, because I was thinking about my dad when I was a kid, and the things that we used to do together when I was little. It's been a long time since I've misgendered myself. I made a video on ranking the different me's that I've been in the past, and that's kind of just how I think of myself. Right now, I'm me, where I am now, doing the things that I do now. I'm not that kid. I'm not the teen version of me. I'm not the 10 different people that I was during my 20s. So it's easier for me to feel removed from the kid that I used to be. You know? But some of the replies were from people who came out as adults, but have since changed the pronouns that they use for themselves when they were a kid. Everyone is different. What was this video supposed to be about? Oh, nostalgia. I think a big I think a big deciding factor on how trans people might view childhood nostalgia differently has to do with whether or not a lot of their memories are tied to their gender. In my personal family, gender wasn't a super important thing, so maybe that's why I'm fine with calling kid me she, and fine with being nostalgic for stereotypically girl things. But in the replies on the groups, some of the responses said that they were nostalgic for things that they wanted, rather than the things that they had. Which brings up another interesting point. What exactly is nostalgia? The concept is so interesting to me. I have nostalgia for the Little Tikes dollhouse because I had those toys. I can close my eyes and imagine holding them and how they feel, and worry that I'm going to get in trouble for putting a temporary tattoo on the table of one of the toys. I have nostalgia for the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh because I remember sitting on my orange shag living room carpet watching it before going to kindergarten. But when it comes to things that I only wanted and didn't have, what happens then? Is that still nostalgia? I wanted the Dr. Dreadful's food lab so much. Oh, it looks really disgusting now. I'm kind of glad I didn't have it. But I'm only nostalgic for the images of the toy, as if I were watching it on a commercial, not the toy itself, because I never held it in my hand. I guess. I do have this sad nostalgic feeling for living in a time and a place that I've never been to. I know people will judge me, but thinking about the far past and how people used to live in tight-knit communities and relying on each other before there was technology everywhere. I know it wasn't glamorous, and it probably sucked a lot, and it was probably kind of gross. But the idea of having people, just having them there in a community, when I think about that, it makes me feel like I'm missing it. Is that just more me feeling nostalgic for an image or a concept? Turns out there's a word for this. It's called anemoia, nostalgia for a time or place one has never known. Now, this side of this side of my nostalgia has nothing to do with being trans. On the contrary, I know that if I were born a long time ago, in another time in history, I would have probably just been stuck as a girl my entire life. Forgetting the fact that I would have died from my appendix exploding in 7th grade, or from getting diabetes when I was 30. Who knows? But when I imagine myself in this time period, I imagine myself as a man. So while I don't associate my anemoia with gender, I still think of myself as a guy. There. I don't know. It makes sense to me. Switching gears, I'm wondering if it's a big thing for trans people to have really liked episodes of cartoons with cross-dressing or gender bending. That's something that happened a lot in cartoons, right? Like when Tommy Pickles entered that beauty pageant, when Johnny Bravo was turned into a woman, and I especially loved the Rowdy Rough Boys. They were goals for me. Even though they weren't really gender-swapped Powerpuff Girls, they were just the boy versions, I guess. I'm sure there's more examples. I guess what I'm looking for here is a broader conversation about how people view their childhood when they've come out as trans as an adult. Some say it was happy, some say it was bad, some don't really care either way and choose to just distance themselves from it all. One response says their childhood kind of felt like conversion therapy, because every time they showed interest in boy things, their mom would make them do the opposite. Hockey? No. Figure skating. He-Man playset? No. Barbie camper van. A few people said their childhood pretty much solely consisted of gender-neutral content. PBS, hand-me-downs, educational and creative toys. Only. And most of the responses even said if they had come out as trans as a child and been able to experience life as their true gender, nothing would have changed for them. Which is interesting. I think I kind of feel the same way, at least for pre-puberty. If I could have come out when I realized something was up, I would have had about 2 years before I started puberty to explore boy stuff more openly. It's hard to say if anything would have been different back then. It makes me wonder if it's really just the hormonal change coming in and wreaking havoc that causes the real issues. It does seem kind of weird that when I see people talking about missing out on being their true gender, it always seems like they bring up teenage stuff. Going to prom in a dress instead of having to wear a suit. Having their first kiss as the person that they were meant to be, having the puberty that they were supposed to have. Not much is usually brought up about pre-puberty childhood, unless their parents made it kind of a nightmare for them by forcing gendered toys on them. It makes me wonder how many people were actually in that situation. I guess in the end, my childhood was happy. I wasn't upset about not being able to come out, because I didn't really know trans was a thing until I was in my late 20s. So I was a happy kid that I just knew something was off. I've had a friend since I was about 7 years old, and she says that she knew something was up, and she wasn't surprised at all when I came out. But I think, looking back, it's the same as most other people say. I'm sad that I couldn't experience teenage years as a boy. Either way, I want to know, if you are trans, how do you view your childhood? Is it happy? Sad? Nostalgic? Not nostalgic? Are you nostalgic for the toys that you had or the toys that you wanted? Specifically, I'm big into items, like the possessions, not really the feelings as much, because possessions to me hold a lot of value. I had this when I was a kid. I absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite toys. I played with him nonstop. He was not Bugs Bunny. He was somebody else. Probably me, if I was a boy, because I was also a furry. I don't know. I lost him, and I was very sad. So I found him at an antique mall last year, and bought him for $5. Very excited. Even though I guess it's not the original, it's still the thing, you know? Items hold a lot of value to me. I don't know if I can be considered a hoarder, because most of the things I have are just things from when I was a kid. Like this. Tell me about the items in your life and how you feel toward them. And if they're gender specific, are they specific to your childhood gender, your gender now? Tell me all the nostalgia. I want to know. And also, I hate saying this. I don't want to start saying this. I'm only going to say it sometimes. Consider subscribing. I don't have a lot of subscribers, and I want to change that. I want YouTube to push my videos to the people that want to see them, and the people that they might help. Being able to talk to somebody else, maybe in the same shoes, in the same park, in the same room, in the same situation as them. Anyway, I feel like I just rambled entirely too long. I'll see you in some shorts, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Every time I talk, I can feel this clicking on my teeth, and it doesn't feel healthy. I already have bad teeth. Is this gonna ruin my teeth?